Alright my fellow agents, welcome back to the Gaming Brigade, and today my friends I'm going to revisit a few of my favorite builds I'm currently using in the game, and in my opinion you definitely want to have at least a few of these loadouts saved. Now having said that, there happen to be a few things I'd like to mention really quick. First of all, remember there is less than 1 week left for the Stretch Goals event, which is currently live in the game. That is how you're going to get the Lexington as well as the Turmoil knee pads. And for those of you out there who have no idea how to farm for those items, I'll leave a link to a video I posted a few days back walking you through the details. Secondly, we did find out moments ago that once again the Stack Broker, which is that named veteran ACS-12 shotgun, which is going to be handed out to people in the game, it has once again been delayed. We do not have a release date as yet. Hopefully that'll be in the next few days. That was going to be a build I was going to do today, but you know, that can't happen, so I'm bringing you this instead. That's all I got for this introduction, my friends. Now at this point, we are going to cut to the gameplay footage. I will leave timestamps in the video description. That way you can bounce in between these things anytime you want. If you have any build requests, please let me know in the comment section. That is it. Thank you once again for everything. And with that being said, let's cut right to the footage. Now, as always, we're going to jump right into the details, and if you happen to enjoy this, do me a favor and hit that like button. It truly helps the channel out, and if you want to stay up to speed on all things Division, feel free to hit that subscribe or join button as well. Now, starting with the specialization, you can see I'm using Gunner. Doing that for the typical reasons. You get some extra armor on kill, a reload speed increase, but the primary reason is because I love to use the Banshee Pulse. It is easily one of my favorite skills in the game. And always remember, regardless of the specialization you choose, have the proper weapons activated in your weapon skill tree. That way you're getting a 15% weapon damage bonus regardless of which one you're using. Now, in full transparency, I never put the Pestilence down when it comes to this build. You can see it has the talent Plague of the Outcast. Hits applied to buff dealing 100% weapon damage over 10 seconds. This is going to stack up to 50 times. Whenever an enemy dies with this debuff, 100% of the stacks are transferred to a nearby enemy within 25 meters. So once you get used to using this weapon, you're just deleting things left and right. And the reason I make that comment is because when it comes to certain weapons and gear sets and their combination, there's a bit of a learning curve sometimes. You can easily jump into a new build and say, this, I don't want to deal with it. I'm just going to go back to my old one. But I got to tell you, my fellow agents, and this is coming from someone who used to run the same damn thing non-stop, when you actually branch out and try different things, it's so much fun. Anyway, getting back to the actual gear itself, you can see we're running 3 tipping scales, 1 Walker and Harris, 1 Petrov, and the Ninja Bag backpack, which is what we're starting with. Now the reason we're running this is because of its talent resourceful, slots in with any equipped gear set and or brand set item to fulfill a requirement towards unlocking a gear set's bonus. And that simply means even though we're only wearing 3 pieces of the tipping scales gear set, we do get that 4-piece bonus, which is what we're targeting. You can see a 2-piece is 30% magazine size, 3 pieces 30% LMG damage, 4 pieces throttle control. And with that talent, shooting build stacks to a max of 50. Each stack is going to provide 0.5% weapon handling and 4% crit hit damage as well. You lose 6 stacks per second when not shooting, but no stacks are lost if an enemy is suppressed. Next we have the body armor. It's the 1 piece of Walker and Harris, but again because of the Ninja Bike we do get 2 brand set bonuses. That is going to be 5% weapon damage and 5% damage to armor. You can also see I'm using the talent Obliterate. Critical hits increase total weapon damage by 1% for 10 seconds. That is going to stack up to 20 times. Another great option is the talent Glass Cannon. That is incredibly powerful and incredibly popular as well. But again, it takes a bit of a learning curve because you're putting out more damage, but you're also taking more damage as well. So again, you do have a lot of different options, my friends. Next, we have the holster and the knee pads. They are the 2 final pieces of the tipping scales gear set. Last but not least, we have the gloves. It's the 1 piece of Petrov, but again, because of the Ninja Bike, we do get 2 brand set bonuses. That is going to be 10% LMG damage and 15% weapon handling. We also have the middle attribute, 8% damage to armor. As far as my skills are concerned for this version of the build, I'm running with the Banshee Pulse and the Reviver Hive, but you can use anything you want. I'd also like to mention the fact that when it comes to the gameplay footage you are about to see, there are no modifiers running whatsoever. And the reason for that is I want to ensure that whenever you see this, you know exactly what the build can do without any special events going on. Hope this helped you out, my friends, and as always, questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know. On that note, I'm going to leave you with some gameplay footage and some final thoughts. As always, I want to take a moment and thank you all for your incredible continued support. Please let me know of any other questions you have I did not address. Thank you once again for the privilege of your time, and as I mention at the end of every one of these, take care of yourselves, be kind to each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks again, everyone. Now, one of the many things you hear me mention in every single build video I post is I always remind you that this is just a template. You want to take your time, make a build your own. And when I say that, I'm referencing the fact that you may want more armor, you may want more weapon damage, you may want to put, protection from elite mods on the thing. It's totally up to you. But the one thing you always have to focus on is making sure that your playstyle is actually catered towards the build that you're using. So to give you a quick example, if you're running Hunter's Fury, which is all about run and gun, you're close to NPC, you're not going to be firing halfway across the map, because if you're doing that, you're not getting the benefits from the gear set. I mean, another great example is, let's say you're using the Memento backpack, but you're not actually running around picking up the trophies. Then why the hell are you wearing the backpack, So anyway, as I said earlier, I know for a lot of players out there, you find yourself that one build and it's very hard to step away from. But I'm telling you, like I mentioned before, once you get an idea for how different builds work and you see how their synergy works in certain situations, you're going to have a lot of different builds you can use, my friends, and I hope this video helps you out.
Hostiles guarding location nearby.
You just want to be close to me?
Vital signs critical. Detected. Civilians in danger. Reinforcements en route.
Gotcha!
This! Heavily armored hostile detected. Civilians in distress.
Now, my specialization for this build is Gunner. The main reason I'm using it because I love to use the Banshee Pulse, especially as a solo player. You're going to see me fire that thing anytime I roll up an NPC. Now, this also happens to give you some other benefits as well. You get some armor on kill, a reload speed increase, a rate of fire increase as well. And always remember, regardless of the specialization you choose, have the proper weapons activated in your weapon skill tree. That way you're getting a 15% weapon damage bonus regardless of which one you're using. Now, as you will see in a moment, my primary for this build is St. Elmo's, but honestly, you could swap this weapon out for something else if you want. I know people that roll with the Lexington, the Chameleon, the Iron Lung, the Pestilence. I mean, there are so many different options, so again, as I say in every build video, you always want to take your time, make a build your own, and if you have any recommendations you want to pass along, feel free to leave them in the comment section as well. As far as your secondary and sidearm, that is dealer's choice, totally up to you. You can use whatever weapons you want. Which now takes us to the gear itself, and as you can see, we're running 4 negotiators, 1 Grupo, and the Overdog's gloves, and I will show you another variation if you do not have those gloves as yet. Starting with the mask is the first of 4 pieces of negotiators, and as you can see, the 2-piece bonus is 15% crit hit chance, 3 pieces 20% crit hit damage, 4 pieces hostile negotiations. Critical hits mark enemies for 20 seconds, up to 3 marks total. When you critically hit a marked enemy, all other marked enemies take 60% of the damage dealt. And not only that, whenever a marked enemy dies, gain 2% crit hit damage, stacking up to 20 times or until the combat ends. Next, we have the body armor, and as you can see, it's the one piece of Grubo. That is going to give us an extra 13% crit hit damage bonus, and I'm running with the talent Obliterate. Critical hits are going to increase total weapon damage by 1% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 20 times. Next, we have the holster and the knee pads, 2 more pieces of Negotiators. You will notice that on every single piece of gear, I'm going to stack crit hit chance and crit hit damage everywhere I can. Next, we have the gloves. They are the Overdogs, and as I said a moment ago, if you do not have these, I will show you a different variation in a moment. Now, the reason these are so effective is because of its talent Weakest Link, and that is going to amplify weapon damage by 30% to the lowest ranking enemies currently in combat as per the tier hierarchy. And at the end of the build breakdown, when we get to the gameplay footage, I will explain exactly how these work, as there is a bit of a learning curve. Last but not least, we have the backpack, and because we are wearing the Negotiator's bag, we do have access to the Talent Critical Measures, and that is going to increase hostile negotiations damage to additional marked enemies from 60% to 112%, which is just a f***ing nightmare for NPCs. Absolutely love this build. As far as my skills are concerned, I'm using one of my favorite combinations in the game, that is the Banshee Pulse and the Crusader Shield. I'd also like to mention that in the gameplay footage you are about to see, I do not have any global modifiers running whatsoever. I'm doing that to ensure that whenever you see this video, you know exactly what the build can do regardless of any events that are going on. Finally, when we take a look at the numbers, you can see I'm sitting at 57.7 crit hit chance, 187.6 crit hit damage. Remember, those numbers are going to be dependent on not only the gear you have equipped, but having a Shade Watch of level 1000. Now, as promised, if you do not have the Overdogs, what I would do is the following. Switch your gloves to a piece of Negotiators, then switch your knee pads to Fox's Prayer. We're doing that for that middle attribute, 8% damage to targets out of cover. And now when we look at the numbers, I'm sitting at 51.8 crit hit chance, 187.7 crit hit damage. And honestly, what I would do is I would swap out one of those crit hit damage mods for a crit hit chance mod, up that number a little bit. Hope this helped you out, my friends, and as always, questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know, and I'll do my best to get back to you as quick as I can.
Heavily armored hostile detected. Detected. In location guarded by hostiles. Reinforcements incoming. Incoming hostiles detected. Civilians in distress. Heavily armored hostiles detected.
Burn 'em out.
Hostiles guarding location nearby.
Now, having said all that, there happen to be a handful of builds that everyone reaches out to me and says you need to try this build, and once again it's happened. Now, this happens to be a build that was brought to my attention when the Turmoil knee pads first came out, and I know as I say that, there's some of you out there watching this saying, "F this build, I don't have those." I promise to show you another variation as we make our way through the breakdown. Now, as always, we're going to jump right into the details, and if you happen to enjoy this, do me a favor and hit that like button. It truly helps the channel out, and if you want to stay up to speed on all things Division, feel free to hit that subscribe or join button as well. Now, starting with the specialization, we're using Gunner. Doing that for the typical Gunner reasons. You're going to get that extra armor on kill, a reload speed increase. You also have access to the Banshee Pulse, so you get some extra rate of fire as well. And always remember to make sure you have the proper weapons activated in your weapon skill tree. That way you're getting a 15% weapon damage bonus regardless of which one you're using. But in full transparency, I really don't switch from the Pestilence when I'm using this build because you're absolutely decimating enemies left and right. The thing is so much damn fun to use. Now, as you've heard me mention multiple times in multiple videos, this is one of the best exotic weapons in the game. In my opinion, it is a must-have for every single player out there. And the reason this is so effective is because of its talent Plague of the Outcast. It's applied to buff dealing 100% weapon damage over 10 seconds. This stacks up to 50 times. Whenever an enemy dies with this debuff, 100% of the stacks are transferred to a nearby enemy within 25 meters. This thing is incredible for crowd control, whether you're playing solo or in a group. Again, if you do not have this weapon, I strongly recommend that you make farming for it a priority. It is in the general loot pool, so you can farm for it anywhere the LMG is the targeted loot. You can hit up Countdown or the Summit. You can choose your loot there. And also remember, you now have the option of playing Retaliation to get the blueprint and craft one for the first time. Next, my friends, we have the mask. It is Coyote's Mask. Again, this is one of those must-have exotics because of its talent pack instincts. That is going to give you a crit hit chance and or crit hit damage bonus based on the distance of the last enemy you hit. This also happens to be another one of those must-have exotics. Now moving on to the body armor, it's the first of 3 pieces of Langmo, and we are running 3 because we're targeting that third brand set bonus, which is an additional 30% LMG damage. We're also running the talent Obliterate, where critical hits are going to increase total weapon damage by 1% for 10 seconds. That's going to stack up to 20 times. Next we have the holster. That's the second piece of Langmo. You'll notice that on every single piece of gear, I'm stacking crit hit chance and crit hit damage. Which now takes us to the knee pads, and as I mentioned previously, we are using the Turmoil. Now for the record, you cannot farm for these in the game right now. They were granted out a while back, and you also had the opportunity to farm for them at the end of the season during the stretch goals. Now these do have the talent Bewildered, and with that talent, when dealing weapon damage to an enemy, 50% of the damage will be dealt to another enemy within 30 meters instead. When there are no other enemies nearby, deal damage normally. Now for those of you out there who do not have these knee pads, you can use the Fox's Prayer knee pads instead. Next we have the gloves. It's the one piece of Petrov. We're using Contractor's gloves for that LMG damage bonus and the additional 8% damage to armor. Last but not least, we have the backpack. It's the third and final piece of Langmo. We're running the Backbone backpack with its talent Perfectly Unstoppable Force. Killing an enemy increases weapon damage by 7% for 15 seconds. That stacks up to 5 times. As far as my skills are concerned, I'm using the combination of the Banshee Pulse and either the Fixer Drone or the Booster Hive, something like that. Totally up to you. I'd also like to mention that in the gameplay footage you're about to see, I do not have any global modifiers active whatsoever. And the main reason for that is to ensure that whenever you see this video, you know exactly what the build can do without any special events going on. Hope this helped you out, my friends, and as always, questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know and I'll do my best to get back to you as quick as I can.
Hostile control point Supply room access.